You didn't get a raise, your rent didn't change, nothing about you changed. You just started paying things with a card instead of cash, and somehow you started spending more. You probably noticed this. Most people do, vaguely, and then buy something and forget about it. But here's the thing, it's not your imagination. Researchers measured it. In a controlled experiment, they took two groups of people, gave them the exact same chance to buy the exact same thing, and told one group to pay cash and the other to pay by card. The card group paid on average somewhere between 64 and 113% more. Same item, same people, different piece of plastic. That's not a spending habit. That's your brain misfiring on purpose, which is a slightly different problem.
Now, cards are useful. I'm not going to tell you to go back to stuffing cash under a mattress. That is not this video. But consider, as of 2024, the Federal Reserve found that credit cards account for 35% of all consumer payments in the U.S. by number. Cash is down to 14%. In 2016, cash was at 31%. So in less than a decade, the way most Americans pay flipped almost completely. If cards genuinely change how much you spend, even a little, that same bias is running maybe 17 times a month, quietly, without you noticing. And it turns out the people building these products noticed first.
Here's what doesn't add up. Your budget doesn't change based on how you pay. Your income doesn't change. The price tag doesn't change. The only thing different is whether a $20 bill leaves your hand or a number on a screen adjusts by $20. On paper, or on a spreadsheet if you're that person, those should feel exactly the same. $20 is $20. They don't feel the same, not even close. And the question is why? Because the answer to that question turns out to explain a design choice that's been quietly baked into every payment technology since 1950. Two researchers at MIT, Drauzen Prelec and George Lowenstein, came up with a concept in 1998 they called the pain of paying, which is exactly what it sounds like. When you spend money, your brain registers a small amount of discomfort, a little friction, a tiny protest from the part of you that remembers how long it took to earn that money. And that friction acts like a brake. It slows you down at the register. It's the half second where you go, do I actually need this? Cash makes that pain high. You can see the money, you can count it, you can feel the stack get lighter. When you hand over a 20, something in your brain goes, that is a real thing that just left. A card makes that pain much lower. You're not handing over a 20, you're tapping a small rectangle. The money doesn't move right now. A statement comes in 3 weeks, and it's a long list, and this item is buried in it. Your brain's brake barely fires. Here's a way to think about it. Imagine paying with poker chips instead of cash. You know intellectually that each chip is real money, but they don't feel like real money. That's not an accident at a casino. That's the whole design. Cards do the same thing, in your grocery store, every day. And here's the part I keep coming back to. Dilip Soman at the University of Toronto ran this with real grocery shoppers. Cards increased spending on discretionary items, the snacks, the extras, the things you were already a little on the fence about, but not on necessities. The bread and milk budget was fine. It's everything else. The brake only fails on the purchases where you were already wavering. The brain scientists are still arguing about exactly which dial gets turned, less pain, more reward, or both at once. They all agree on what happens, just not which switch. The reason this is a design choice and not a happy accident requires a small detour to 1950. A businessman named Frank McNamara was having dinner in New York. The story goes he'd left his wallet at home. He had to call his wife to bring cash. He found this embarrassing. And from that embarrassment came the Diners Club card, a small cardboard card accepted at 27 New York restaurants. Buy the meal, receive a bill at the end of the month, pay then. The decoupling of payment from purchase, the core psychological engine that Prelec and Lowenstein would spend decades studying, was baked in from day one. Not as a psychological trick, just as a business model. The pain reduction came for free. By 1958,
Bank of America had sent 60,000 unsolicited active credit cards in the mail to residents of Fresno, California. Not applications, active cards. They just mailed them. The next year, they expanded statewide, then beyond. The template was set. And then they added revolving credit, meaning you didn't have to pay in full anymore. You could carry a balance. Pay a little now, push the rest forward. The moment of reckoning got even further away. Every decade since, the payment has gotten one step more frictionless. Magnetic strip, chip, contactless tap, phone wallet, one-click online checkout. Each upgrade sold as convenience. Each upgrade also, by the exact logic Prelec and Lowenstein described, making the break just a little bit quieter. They weren't engineering psychology, they were engineering payment. The psychology just kept following. Here's the part I had to read twice. In 2021, MIT researchers put people in an fMRI machine and let them go shopping, once with cash, once with a credit card, and they watched what their brains did. When you pay with cash, your brain's reward network tracks the price. Higher price, more deliberation. The brain is doing the math. When you pay with a credit card, the reward network fires, strongly, when the card logo appears, before the price is shown. Your brain had already started deciding to buy before it knew what anything cost. Now, and here's where this gets genuinely uncomfortable. The effect doesn't stop at what you pay. Researchers in the UK found that people stepping out of a store could accurately recall how much they'd just spent when they'd used cash. Contactless card users, measurably worse. The spending had happened so quickly, with so little sensation, that it hadn't really registered. So not only does the card make you spend more, it also makes you remember less about what you spent, which is, as a combination, pretty effective for someone. And there's one more thing. Some research suggests that even seeing a credit card logo, not using the card, just seeing the Visa or MasterCard symbol on a table, increases willingness to spend. Because over years of using a card to buy things you wanted, your brain has been conditioned to feel a small anticipatory buzz when it sees the logo. Pavlov ran that experiment with dogs and bells. The payment industry ran theirs with humans and a color-blocked oval, and got remarkably similar results. So let's land this. You didn't spend more because you're bad at money. You spent more because your brain's "wait, that's real money" signal is significantly weaker when you tap a card than when you hand over a bill. That's not your failure. That's a documented cognitive difference, measured in grocery stores and brain scanners. The card itself may have trained your brain to feel a mild reward response when you see it, before you've even picked anything up. That's not weakness. That's classical conditioning. We're all Pavlov's dog. The bowl just has a chip in it now. And every payment innovation since 1950 has moved in exactly one direction, making the moment of spending feel faster, lighter, and more automatic. Now, and I want to be fair here, cards solved a real problem. Carrying large amounts of cash is inconvenient and risky. Revolving credit gave ordinary people access to emergency money they didn't have before. The convenience is real. Most people wouldn't give it up, and I'm not suggesting they should. But whoever designed the frictionless checkout wasn't just making your life easier. They were, by the logic of all the research above, also quietly adjusting your spending behavior. And the product keeps getting more frictionless. Tap, blink, done. The swipe is already nostalgia. Honestly, that's 75 years of remarkably precise engineering. Horrible for your September credit card statement, but precise.